My name is Elisabeth Needleman. I have to say, we started connecting with the farm in probably about 2000. We'd moved down to Massachusetts from New Hampshire, and we'd been involved with food co-ops there. And at the time, the farm would host a food co-op. I think it was once a month. So I came to check it out, and for whatever reasons, we didn't continue with the food co-op, but we all fell in love with the farm. And I have to say, from that moment through high school for both of my kids, we were involved in the farm. And beyond that, I continued to be involved in the farm. You could order food once a month, and then you would come to pick up whatever you ordered. They tended in that time to be sort of natural food co-ops, and that was important to us. And you had to do some work towards your share of that. But like I said, you know, there were more sources of that type of food once we moved down to Massachusetts. So we didn't go with the food co-op, but we like I said, we fell in love with the farm, and up in Nashua, where both kids were born and where they lived the beginning of their lives, we were outside a lot. You know, we were hiking. We were they would have their own little garden in our yard every summer. So we'd already started that way of life with the kids, and this was, you know, we became aware of the farm, and it was clear to us that this was a wonderful way to continue that besides what we did in our own yard. But we lived in a suburb of Boston, so this was close, but also felt far away in good ways, you know, from the suburban life. I think in the beginning, mostly it was the kids who were connected to the farm, and there were offerings in the summer, and you know, we would sign them up for whatever programs were going on. You know, they would help in the field, they would help with animals. My daughter ended up working with produce, but also selling at the farm stand that they used to have on Route 16. My son did the same. I'm not sure he worked at the farm stand, maybe he did. And then he continued more with the produce in a way, but he also worked with animals, and my daughter's focus was on the animals and also the produce. So they kind of found their own way, which was great. You know, there were a lot of, even at that time, there were a lot of programs available. And then eventually they both ended up working on the teen work crew for 3 years each, and that was in high school for both of them, and that was amazing. But the wonderful thing about the teen work crew was they got more experience with construction and things like that, and they were both interested in that, and they worked on the fences, they worked on the sheds. My daughter helped work on and build the school that still exists, the preschool. It's a preschool now. And my son worked all around the farm. So that was sort of the progression of what they did. Oh, I think it deeply impacted them, both of them. I will say my daughter's a veterinarian now, so I know that, you know, that was partially, at least, because of the experience she had with the animals here. And I don't know how it is now, but it was very hands-on at that time, very hands-on. So I'm hoping that's still true. I have to admit I'm not in direct knowledge of what the specific programs are. And the same with my son. He worked with animals. He learned about caring. They both learned, I hate to sound clinical about it, but they learned social skills. They made friends. They have friends still from the farm. My son went into medicine as well, and I know that came out of caring for the animals, because it wasn't just, they got to see beyond sort of feeding cute animals. They got to understand, and they were witness to what it took to really take care of animals beyond just good food and good environment for them. So I think that influenced both of their careers, but certainly enriched their social skills and their network, their friendships. What they got from the farm had a lot to do with the mentors and the people who were guiding them and teaching them and that sort of thing. And the people who ran the farm, it all mattered. I also was able to volunteer here for many years, including after my kids went off to college. So I think a lot of it was the same for me. It was just the people who ran the farm, the people who volunteered at the farm. I loved all of that. I loved the events. I loved volunteering on them. I loved going to them. I think my entire family, I feel like we had sort of a very early experience of what came to be called the farm to table experience. It didn't have that name, and I'm not sure it had that name till after my kids had finished volunteering here and working here. But I think, I feel like that we had an early window into that, but in an unassuming way. So they, a valuable experience for me, but also for my kids, was learning that whole cycle. In a not so much romantic way, because that's easy to do. The animals are cute and all of that. But they learned in a very natural way, the cycle of what a farm is about. If it's a productive farm, if people are buying what's produced on the farm, whether it's animals or it's produce. And for me, that was very valuable. But I'm including myself in that because I wasn't aware of that, so I think we all learned that. I have to say, we were also, during the same time, involved in a CSA at another farm. We belonged to that CSA for 13 years, and I did a CSA here afterwards and other places. So we were lucky that we were also having that sort of, some of it duplicated in terms of vegetables and fruits on another farm. So we were just getting this amazing education about what it takes to put food on a table. Yeah. So that probably is the most valuable, but it was also, again, the people, the events, the experience, just, sort of, we all got it. It wasn't our personal farm, of course, but it was like, it sort of was our farm in a way, and I'm sure it's still that way, that feeling like of comfort, really. It is clear that the people who volunteer here and the kids who come for programs are valued members of the farm community, necessary and valued. I have no doubt that there were days that the kids came home from the farm and had a funny story, and we had a good laugh over it. I'm not remembering because we had so many years here and so many experiences. But what I thought of was that driving up to the farm, and I don't mean to sound sentimental, but I always smiled just driving into the driveway, and the kids always came home happy. They may have had some frustrating challenges during the day or whatever that they experienced, but although I can't remember any specific, funny events, there was always this feeling of happiness. And I know that, because we spent so much time here, I became familiar with a lot of the people who were actually on the staff. And I just know that we had a lot of laughs. I mean, I remember just joking and feeling comfortable enough to kind of tease each other or to just joke about something. So I know there was a lot of laughter, for our family on the farm. I just can't remember a specific story, but I guess in a way it's almost better, having this sort of stream of happy events and laughter. I'm going to say beyond Natick, because we've never lived in Natick. The contribution is that it is open. It is open to everybody basically, and open as a place where you can. I think it's important that people, I think, my opinion, is that it is important that people know where their food comes from. I hope that people feel that way. And so it's an opportunity for that. If they don't eat vegetables or they don't eat animals, that's fine, but it's just a way to get that knowledge, just to have that knowledge. I'm trying to think of a way to say that it just has to exist. Thankfully it exists, and it has to continue, because most people who don't live on farms or live in a farming community don't have that access. And I think it's important to have that there if people want to even just visit, even if people don't have kids, or they have kids and they're not involved in the programs, and they just come and walk around the farm. I just think it's enriches lives, and if there's a place where anybody can do that, and I think it's important specifically important because it is close to a city and it is close to the suburbs. I'm going to say my kids were probably the only kids who worked on the farm in the summer among their friends, but their friends, everybody had access to it. So I think it's essential, and not to get scientific, but more and more there are studies that talk about importance of everybody, but let's talk about kids, having access to green space and animals and just a place to be in nature. And this is a very, not everybody wants to go out hiking, or not everybody can, but it's a comfortable place, condensed place where people can come and do that. So two things. I will mention that my husband did pass away while in that timeline that I've been talking about, and he loved the farm too, and he loved what it provided to our kids. And I think in the universe of what was a comfort to us when we lost him, the farm's in there. Even though the kids were at that point where they were winding down their direct involvement, I continued to volunteer. So for me personally, it was a place of comfort and just people knew him here, but I was also able to, as now an individual, continue seamlessly with what I've been able to give to the farm in terms of volunteering, but also get from the farm in terms of just personal support, but also just the space to come and just be happy. And the second thing that I wanted to say that I thought about was things change, and I'm sure, the farm now is very different than the way it was 50 years ago. It's different than when my kids were here, and that wasn't that long ago. And I understand that happens, and with everything, a lot of that can be very good, and some of it may not be to everybody's preference, and I get that. I hope it doesn't change too much. It doesn't feel that different from when we were here, and I think that's a good thing. And I think that the couple of things that I'd love to see continue is to allow the kids to have as much direct contact with working with the animals, working on other projects around the farm. Those are the things that, and working with the produce, those are the things that I think were very specifically great for my kids. And that it doesn't get to I love technology, but I'm glad that you don't come in here and you look at the website and it's not glaring with technology. And, of course, technology is going to go forward and it is beneficial in a lot of ways, but I love that it's still a farm. It's still, there's still, there's still connections now to what it was 50 years ago. I have no doubt. And I hope that people who maintain some awareness of the good in that as time goes forward.